it's about restoring what injury or illness has taken away, helping patients regain their ability to think, to feel, to connect with the world, and therefore yours is a field where science meets the human resilience, where technology helps heal the most delicate and complex structures. Challenges and setbacks are inevitable no matter your level of skill or experience, and according to the New England Journal of Medicine, 88% of physicians in America are likely to be sued by the age of 45, and 99% by the time they reach 65. And of these lawsuits, those lawsuits ending with a payment to the plaintiff, I'm sorry to say neurosurgery tops the list. So you've taken on a huge challenge, and I have to doff my hat to you for that, because the pursuit of excellence that you embody, refining techniques, learning from every case, and pushing the boundaries of what is possible, that dedication is what makes your profession extraordinary. Now, the theme of this conference, Complications in Neurosurgery, underscores the essential truth about both medicine and life itself. Even the most skilled hands encounter challenges, and even the most meticulous planning does not always ensure a perfect outcome. But the willingness to confront these complications, to learn from them, and to improve upon existing practices is what defines true excellence. Neurosurgery, I know, is a field that demands precision, patience, and an almost philosophical acceptance of uncertainty. And yet it is in grappling with these very uncertainties that progress is made. Beyond the technicalities of medicine, your work also carries profound, ethical, emotional, and even philosophical dimensions. The decisions you make in the operating room affect not only the lives of your patients, but also their families, their futures, and indeed the broader discourse on medical ethics and innovation. In a world increasingly driven by artificial intelligence, robotic-assisted procedures, and rapid technological advancements, the human element remains irreplaceable. And that is what makes gatherings like this one so vital, not merely to exchange knowledge, but to reinforce the shared sense of responsibility that comes with your profession. And that, I think, is precisely why this conference matters. Neurosurgery is practiced in vastly different realities, where training methodologies, medical resources, patient demographics, and even cultural perceptions of risk and recovery vary enormously. In such a world, complications are not outliers, they are inevitabilities. Throughout history, progress in neurosurgery has never come from avoiding difficult conversations. It has emerged from facing them head-on, and insight that Keiki Turrell had when he started the very first conference in this series. The best surgeons are not those who never encounter complications, but those who use them as stepping stones for advancement. Now, this commitment to open discourse is precisely what ICCN has championed, reshaping the way the medical community approaches complications. Yet true progress is seldom born from avoidance. It thrives on the principle of open discussion and rigorous analysis, and ICCN has dismantled the barriers of hesitation and the stigma attached to that, bringing these conversations into the foreground with the full weight of scientific scrutiny. With the unwavering support of esteemed neurological bodies across the globe, ICCN has not merely normalized the discourse on complications, but has transformed it into an indispensable catalyst for your growth. No longer are setbacks viewed as solitary burdens. Instead, they serve as pivotal inflection points. Lessons and refined techniques challenge dogma and propel the field towards greater precision and efficiency. This paradigm shift has fostered a movement that transcends individual practice. The thousands who now actively engage with ICCN's platform are not mere participants, but the vanguard of your evolving profession. One that embraces complexity with intellectual humility and converts adversity into innovation. The culture of neurosurgery is no longer defined solely by the pursuit of perfection, but by the relentless commitment to learning from imperfection. Through this collective effort, ICCN has redefined how neurosurgeons confront challenges, turning complications into opportunities for innovation, collaboration, and improved patient outcomes. And that, of course, is no small feat. But let's be clear, neurosurgery is It's a field that demands extraordinary skill, an unwavering nerve, and the resilience to accept that despite your best efforts, not every outcome will be perfect. But true excellence is not defined by an illusion of infallibility. It lies in the ability to recognize, analyze, and improve upon every challenge faced. The fact that this community has embraced that responsibility with such dedication speaks volumes about its character. One that values not just technical mastery, but intellectual curiosity, ethical responsibility, and an unrelenting pursuit of progress. No field is immune from complications. In the operating theatre, you're making decisions every minute, and each decision can have unintended consequences. To give you an example from another field, China tried in the late 1950s to protect and enhance its grain production by destroying sparrows who were eating the grain. The Smash Sparrows campaign was a success, but it led to a massive increase in the locust population, since sparrows were the actual predators of locusts. The locusts damaged more crops than the sparrows would have eaten and caused a famine. The law of complications at work. I'll give you a different example. In colonial India, the British government decided to deal with the cobra menace by offering rewards for cobras, dead or alive. Indians being Indians, they started raising cobras to collect the bounty. And when the British stopped the program because it was not economical anymore, people released the snakes they had raised. The cobra population soared, and the cobra menace ended up worse than before the campaign to eradicate it. Now, many doctors have undoubtedly found that decisions made with the best of intentions can create unanticipated complications. So, in your field, to acknowledge that complications are not mere setbacks is not wrong. They're mere signposts, you can argue, on the road to excellence. As you continue with your discussions, may they be thought-provoking, may your insights be transformative, and if I may add, may the only complications you encounter here be in deciding which of the many brilliant sessions you want to attend. Complications in neurosurgery are the ever-present spectre that accompanies every procedure. Never invited, rarely expected, yet inescapably part of the landscape. They make no distinction between the experienced maestro and the meticulous novice, between the most routine intervention and the most groundbreaking advance. They're as much a part of the profession as the scalpel itself, an unavoidable element that separates theory from reality, ideal outcomes from the messy unpredictability of human anatomy. The field itself is a fascinating paradox. On the one hand, it is driven by the relentless march of scientific advancement, with cutting-edge technology promising unprecedented precision. On the other, it remains a profoundly human endeavor, where a surgeon's steady hands and sound judgment are still the difference between triumph and disaster. Young Master Terrell, sitting here, giving an account of one of his more complicated surgeries, observed that being a neurosurgeon is not just a profession, it is a personality disorder. So I think that's something which many of you must sometimes feel as you face complications on the operating table. Yet if one were to examine the landscape of complications, it becomes apparent that they're not mere accidents of fate, but rather a two-sided coin. One side governed by anticipation and prevention, the other by recognition and management. Prevention, of course, is the gold standard. The meticulous post-operative, pre-operative planning, I beg your pardon, the rigorous adherence to surgical protocols, the relentless pursuit of error-free execution. These are the fortifications you erect against the looming spectre of failure. And yet medicine, like life, does not abide by guarantees. Complications and their perverse inevitability have a way of humbling even the most experienced surgeon. When they do arise, as they sometimes will, despite every precaution, what matters is not just the occurrence, but the response. the deftness with which a complication is managed, the quick recalibration of surgical strategy, the calm you show in the face of chaos, these are the true measures of mastery in your profession. The challenges posed by complications are not unique to neurosurgery, of course. Just as a surgeon must anticipate and manage the unexpected, so too must those who navigate the complexities of global diplomacy, for instance. In both fields, precision is paramount, yet unpredictability remains an ever-present factor. A single miscalculation, whether in the operating room or on the global stage, can have lasting consequences. Much like a surgeon navigating the intricate pathways of the human brain, diplomats must maneuver through the complexities of geopolitics, where a single miscalculation can have irreversible consequences. Both professions demand foresight, accuracy, and an unflinching ability to manage crises when they inevitably arise. Much like in surgery, history is littered with examples of diplomatic interventions that, despite their careful planning, have unraveled in spectacularly unintended ways. Consider the decades-long obsession of the United States with removing Fidel Castro from power. The logic seemed straightforward: excise the problem and Cuba will be free from communist rule. What followed, however, was a theatre of the absurd. 638 assassination attempts, ranging from the grotesquely elaborate exploding cigars to the downright bizarre poisoned diving suit. Yet through a combination of sheer resilience, intelligence failures, good luck, and perhaps history's own sense of irony, Castro not only survived, he thrived, using these attempts as successful propaganda to cement his own grip on power. The complications in this case were twofold. Not only did the interventions fail, but they backfired, strengthening the very regime that they had sought to dismantle. What was intended as a decisive surgical strike turned into a long and humiliating diplomatic migraine. Geopolitics is not brain surgery, of course, but complications can occur in both fields. Another striking example comes from the end of the Cold War, when the dissolution of the Soviet Union was celebrated as a triumph for the democratic world. Yet in the rush to embrace the New World Order, little thought was given to the long-term consequences of our rapidly fragmented geopolitical landscape. NATO's eastward expansion, seen as a necessary measure for European security, was perceived by Russia as a provocation. The world now grapples with the fallout of that strategic miscalculation, as tensions in Eastern Europe remind us that what seems like a diplomatic victory today may, without calibration, sow the seeds of future conflict tomorrow. As in medicine, the first incision may be precise, but the post-operative complications can shape history. Look at Ukraine's own experience, with its principal supporter over the last 3 years now turning out to be its biggest critic. As someone wisely observed, the sheep spends much of its life fearing the wolf, only to find himself devoured by the shepherd. That seems to be what's happening right now to Ukraine. And therein lies the lesson for both medicine and diplomacy. Complications are neither aberrations nor accidents, but an inherent reality of any high-stakes endeavor. The measure of true mastery is not in the naive hope of avoiding complications entirely, but in the wisdom to anticipate their arrival, the agility to navigate their consequences, and the humility to acknowledge that even the best laid plans can take on a life of their own. The lesson in both medicine and diplomacy, therefore, is clear. Complications are inevitable, but how we prepare for and respond to them determines the outcome. Protocol, guidelines, and strategic foresight can minimize risks, but they cannot eliminate them entirely. The key lies in recognizing that while expertise and planning can tilt the odds in our favor, they do not render us infallible. And so whether one wields a scalpel or a statecraft portfolio, the challenge remains the same: to anticipate complications wherever possible, to manage them with skill and integrity when they arise, and above all, to ensure that the pursuit of solutions is done without creating greater problems than the ones we set out to solve. Yet if there is one truth that transcends every field of medicine, it is that prevention is always preferable to cure. The most devastating complications are often not those that arise unpredictably, but those that, in retrospect, could have been avoided. Neurosurgery, for all its advancements, remains a field where margins for error are razor thin, and a moment's oversight can have irreparable consequences. A well-planned intervention is not merely a safeguard against the unforeseen. It is an ethical imperative. From pre-operative assessments to intraoperative vigilance, every measure taken to minimize risk is not just a professional responsibility, it is a moral one. When complications do occur, they demand more than just a technical response. They necessitate introspection, accountability, and the resolve to improve. The burden of an adverse outcome does not dissipate with the closing of an incision. It lingers in the surgeon's mind, reshaping their understanding of risk, decision-making, and consequence. Every complication is a sobering reminder that the stakes of this field are unforgiving, that even the smallest miscalculation can alter the trajectory of a life. It is not merely the patient who must bear the weight of an unfavorable outcome, but also the surgeon, whose every decision carries the gravity of another's well-being. This is why in any field where failure carries high stakes, there must be room for honest reflection. The greatest disservice you can do to your profession is to treat complications as a shameful anomaly or shameful anomalies rather than as opportunities for learning. And come to think of it, I could say the same of my current profession. Neurosurgery is not merely a test of skill, but a continuous exercise of humility, and acceptance that no matter how experienced one becomes, there will always be lessons written in the ink of imperfection. Indeed, some of the most invaluable lessons in medicine have come not from seamless success, but from painstaking errors. And here lies the most uncomfortable truth of all. Every seasoned practitioner has their own archive of failure, their own catalogue of cases they wish they had unfolded differently. But failure is not defeat unless we refuse to learn from it. To speak openly about missteps, to share the hard-earned wisdom that emerges from complications and setbacks, is not an admission of weakness. It is the very foundation of progress. This ultimately is what distinguishes those who merely practice from those who truly master their craft. The willingness to confront complications head-on, to acknowledge their own fallibility without surrendering to it, and to refine one's approach with every experience. Whether in the surgical theatre or on the world stage, the objective is not to chase an unattainable perfection, but to cultivate a discipline where vigilance, adaptability, and intellectual honesty guide every decision. We all know that that's what your conference is about, that complications are unavoidable, and we know that however skilled the surgeon is, however advanced the technology he's using, that risk-resistant outcomes are unpredictable. The intricacy of neurosurgical procedures means that even the slightest deviation can have profound consequences, and that despite our best efforts, some complications remain beyond our human control. But acknowledging these risks does not mean resigning ourselves to them. Rather, it necessitates a continued commitment to innovation, to excellence, and most important, to adaptability. The medical landscape of our country, especially in the aftermath of COVID-19, is evolving rapidly. The post-pandemic world is witnessing an unprecedented surge in public healthcare spending, a trend that must be met with an equally strong commitment to ensuring access to high-quality and affordable neurosurgical care. While these investments open new frontiers for treatment, they also highlight the urgent need for skilled professionals like you and sustainable healthcare infrastructure, which is still somewhat lacking. Keki was telling me about his efforts to open a centre for neurosurgery in Mumbai and how much of a struggle it's turned out to be. Another challenge that cannot be overlooked is the shortage of medical professionals generally. In a country like ours, despite producing thousands of doctors and even specialists every year, the nation struggles to retain our top talent, with many graduates pursuing opportunities abroad or in elite private hospitals, keeping our underserved populations out of their care. And this shortage is felt particularly acutely in high-stakes disciplines like neurosurgery, where precision, experience, and access to cutting-edge technology can mean the difference between between life and death. For a country where so many millions of our countrymen and women live one medical emergency away from financial ruin, ensuring that neurosurgical expertise is accessible and equitably distributed is not just an ethical imperative, but in many ways a socio-economic necessity as a public policy concern. For many of us in India, the cost of a major illness such as a brain tumor or a severe spinal injury is not just a medical burden, but a financial catastrophe. Families are often forced to liquidate all their assets to afford essential neurosurgical procedures, plunging them into cycles of death and poverty. Healthcare institutions must take an active role in mitigating this crisis by expanding affordable treatment options, fostering medical talent, and advocating systemic reforms that prioritize the health and well-being of all citizens, regardless of their socio-economic status. Of course, we know that neurosurgery, like all medicine, stands at the intersection of science, policy, and humanity. The complications we seek to overcome are not just the complications on the operating table, but those also, in my view, in access, equity, and infrastructure. Healthcare organizations and institutions have an opportunity and indeed a responsibility to be at the forefront of this transformation, ensuring that the future of neurosurgical care is defined not just by technological advancements, but by its widening reach and impact on those who need it most. Yet while much is spoken about the burden borne by patients, the weight of complications is carried by surgeons as well. To err even within the realm of medical inevitability is to be haunted by self-reproach. The second victim of a complication is often the one who wields a scalpel, grappling with the emotional toll of an outcome that, despite every effort, did not go as intended. In such moments, of course, the profession must extend compassion to its own. And so whether one wields a scalpel or a state craft portfolio, as I said, the challenge remains the same. And the big issue is that sometimes in medicine, in the pursuit of solutions, we can create greater problems than the ones we set out to solve. The field of medicine is actually replete with stories of unintended complications. The most famous one, the last story I'm telling today, must be when the WHO tried to eradicate malaria among the Dayak people in Borneo, Sarawak province of Malaysia, by spraying DDT in the 1950s. The DDT killed the mosquitoes and dramatically reduced malaria, but they also killed the wasps living on the thatched roofs of the Dayak huts, who were the predators of thatch-eating caterpillars. With the wasps gone, the caterpillars ate the thatch and the roofs collapsed. They caved in on the Dayaks, causing injuries and even deaths. Worse, the local geckos, lizards, ate the DDT poisoned insects, started staggering about in a DDT-induced stupor, and were then no longer swift enough to escape the cats, who promptly consumed the geckos. The cats then died of DDT poisoning, leading to an explosion in the rat population and the spread of bubonic plague, which kills more people than malaria ever had. Finally, the WHO, this is a true story, the WHO had to paradrop cats. Imagine cats in parachutes into Borneo to deal with the rats. So as you discuss complications, think about the poor doctors at the WHO who first decided to spray DDT in Borneo. At least I'm sure in your lives you don't have anything quite as calamitous as that. Anyway, a truly distinguished surgeon is not one who's never encountered a complication. We know such a figure doesn't exist. Rather, it's the one who, in the face of adversity, acts with composure, clinical acumen, and moral clarity. Recognition, swift intervention, and when necessary, the humility to seek assistance, these are the hallmarks of real mastery. It's not only technical skill that determines the finest practitioners, but also the ability to navigate the ethical, legal, and emotional complexities that complications can entail. Yet, just as in diplomacy, where no negotiation is without risk, no surgical intervention is free from uncertainty, diplomats operate in a world of shifting dynamics. can unravel due to unforeseen developments, and so their success is never measured by an absence of crises. That'll be a utopian fantasy, but by their ability to anticipate crises, prepare contingency strategies, and maintain composure under pressure. In much the same way, microsurgeons, neurosurgeons perform in an environment where precision is paramount, and yet unpredictability is always present. The mark of a skilled diplomat is not in avoiding every crisis, but in foreseeing the complications before they escalate, negotiating solutions with minimal collateral damage, and transforming setbacks into opportunities for longer-term stability. Similarly, the finest neurosurgeons are not those who never encounter complications, an unattainable standard, but those who manage them with wisdom, foresight, and a steady hand. They recognize that even the most flawlessly executed procedures can take an unexpected turn, and they're prepared for it, not with fear or hesitation, but with the calm resolve that comes from rigorous training and experience. When a complication arises, I'm sure you don't freeze, panic, or dwell on this misstep, complication. Instead, you assess the complication in real time, recalibrate your approach, execute the necessary steps to contain the complication, and restore the best possible outcome. So, in both geopolitics or diplomacy and in surgery, the art lies not only in technical expertise, but in the ability to navigate complexity with grace. It is a delicate balance between precision and flexibility, between confidence and humility, that defines your mastery. Just as a skilled negotiator understands where to stand firm and when to compromise, a seasoned neurosurgeon knows when to persist with an approach and when to pivot to an alternative approach. In both professions, the stakes are high and the margin for error is slim. The cost of miscalculations can be profound. Yet for all your trials and tribulations, neurosurgery remains one of the most awe-inspiring disciplines in medicine, a field where science meets artistry, where precision meets intuition, and where the boundaries of human capability are constantly being redefined. It is a profession that demands not just technical mastery, but an unshakable commitment to excellence, a relentless pursuit of knowledge, and a profound sense of duty towards those who entrust their lives to your hands. To be a neurosurgeon is to stand at the intersection of intellect and instinct, of courage and caution, to walk a path where there are no easy answers, where every decision carries immense consequences, and yet time and time again you rise to this challenge with unwavering determination. Your resilience is unmatched, you're undaunted by complexity, you're unrelenting in the face of adversity, you're unwilling to accept anything less than the best possible outcome for your patients. And I congratulate you and thank you for that. But beyond skill and intellect, what truly defines your community, I can see this today, is the spirit of camaraderie. This is not a field of solitary brilliance, one of collective endeavor, where knowledge is to be shared, where experiences are exchanged, where mentorship and collaboration and awareness of complications are all going to shape the next generation. It's a field where the wisdom of seasoned hands guides the aspirations of those still learning, where every case, whether triumphant or tragic, becomes part of a collective archive that strengthens your entire profession. And this, of course, we will have to realize that the pursuit of a complication-free surgical career is an ideal as unattainable as it's noble, a distant horizon that continues to recede even as we advance toward it. But it's in the striving, in the relentless pursuit of perfection, that the true spirit of your profession of neurosurgery is found. And perhaps in that pursuit lies the real measure, not in the absence of complications, but in the wisdom, grace, and fortitude with which those complications are faced by all of you. And so how you respond to these complications is what matters to the rest of the world. That's what reveals your true character, not necessarily in the triumphs, but in the trials you faced, not being untouched by failure, but being unshaken by failure. To all those who dedicate your lives to this extraordinary and demanding profession, who embrace its burdens as well as its rewards, and who navigate the complexities of the human brain, body, spine, with both skill and heart, Thank you. Your resilience, your commitment, your courage are what make the profession not just a science but an art. Thank you very much for the privilege of meeting you all here and for addressing you today. Jen.
Thank you so much, Dr. Shashi Tharoor, for such a captivating and enriching message. This will indeed be remembered by the neurosurgical community for a long time. Dr. Neerav Mehta will now deliver the vote of thanks.
After hearing Dr. Tharoor's speech, I'm feeling like an illiterate, and I don't know if I can call this vote of thanks, but I'll try my best. This vote of thanks will probably be, with the English that I've used, would have been written by Dr. Tharoor in his preschool probably. But we go ahead. So dear colleagues, esteemed guests and my dear friends, on behalf of Dr. Ketan Goyal and the entire organizing team of the 5th ICC in 2025, I thank all of those who have contributed to making this unique themed conference a success. Thank you. First and foremost, I would like to thank our guest, Dr. Shashi Tharoor, Member of Parliament, for his eloquent talk and words of wisdom. Thank you, sir. I'd like to also thank Air Chief Marshal Falim for his presentation, for bringing out the similarity between both the fields. And once again, I would like to reiterate that we can never thank our armed forces enough for all their sacrifices. I thank all the dignitaries for gracing today's occasion. I would like to thank the trustees of the Mumbai Institute of Neurosciences for organizing this unique event. No event is complete without the support of our academic partners, the pharmaceutical industry and the surgical industry. I would like to thank each and every one of them. I will not name them, or I might forget to name somebody. Every event has a very good event manager behind it, who is the reason for the success. And here it is, the success goes to Wama Events, Mr. Vikram Parvardhan and his team. I would like to give a special mention to the tireless efforts of Rucha, Janvi, Samantha and everyone else. These people have been with us for all our events, and as usual the work has been spot on and their presence is always a constant comfort to us. The audiovisual team by Mr. Yash has been brilliant, and I thank you for the same. A special thanks to Mr. Samir and Joresta and the entire team of Taj Siddharth Goa, who made us stay comfortable and heeded to all our requests. Salim and Farooq from Cabs Goa, the performers for the evening who kept us entertained. A special thank you to all of you. A special thanks to Ms. Effie Costa for comparing this entire conference. Our back-end team of Vishal, Reggie and Deepak for their continuous hard work and support for the last 6 months is the result that we all are seeing today. Last but not the least, this event is not complete without thanking all our participating neurosurgeons for their active scientific deliberations. You indeed made it a memorable event for us. We are truly indebted to you. Thank you once again. Thank you for this conference and this lovely evening. I would now request everyone to please rise for the national anthem.